Hi everyone, I am Divya Mohan, a principal technology advocate at SUSA, and this is yet another episode of Rancher Life. Now, before we get into the topic for today, you all know how Rancher Life episodes work any which way, but just to set the context for those of y'all who are new and who are tuning in for the very first time. Ranch Live episodes are a way that we get experts from across the cloud native ecosystem and the wider open source ecosystem to share their knowledge with us in terms of a live stream. So we're all here to learn from each other. And given that this is a learning environment, I'd encourage you all to ask as many questions as you all have, because hey, we are here to learn. But while doing so, please make sure that you are courteous and nice to other people interacting with you on chat, and obviously while asking questions as well. And that's just the basic ground rule that we have. Today, however, we are going to focus on something that is um, pretty much a hot topic wherever you look at, whether it's within IT or outside of it. And it's all because of one big term known as global warming. And um, it's also one of the terms that we like to think we know a lot about, but we really need to sort of invest more efforts into it, not just as an industry, but as a human collective. So, what is this term that I'm talking about? It is sustainability. Sustainability can assume many forms, and it can mean many things based on the context. But today, what we are going to talk about is sustainability when it comes to your cloud native workloads. And sure, you might have specific metrics within your organization and within your team even to measure and mark your levels of sustainability. But at the CNCF level, we have a technical advisory group that sort of does this, and we also have various working groups under it that help measure the sustainability with the help of tooling, etc. So today's Ranch Live episode is going to be focused on that specific working group, and we have with us Antonio from the working group Green Reviews Tooling to chat with us about some of the tooling that's in place at the tag level to sort of measure the sustainability of particular projects. Hi, Antonio. Welcome to Ranch Live.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I'm very happy to talk about this topic that I really like your introduction. So it's something complicated, and I must say for me has been a journey in which I remind myself every day to be more and more humble, because it's been like crazy to see how many layers there are in Kubernetes, in the cloud, and sustainability touches upon also hardware. So really a lot to learn, rather a process I'm trying to enjoy. And I'm really glad I met the folks in the tag that really gave the right energy, and I felt like family along those days.
Yeah, but for our viewers, Antonio, would you mind giving them an introduction of your background and how you made your way into this tag? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of our viewers will be interested in knowing more about you as the speaker and the background, obviously, that you come from, so that they can sort of match it up in their head if they would be a good fit for the tag. So, would you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Like I think my sustainability journey started back then in university. I did a master thesis on a question that my professor had. She heard about Kubernetes. It was 2019, between 2019 and 2020. So it was already the de facto standard at the time. but she didn't know much about it, and she had this question: how can we do a green layer on Kubernetes? Like, there are different components. What of those components could be a green layer? And back then, I remember I tried to Google as much as possible. I was not into open source. I didn't know open source very well as a concept, and probably my professor also didn't know the details of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And it was quite a surprise when I first gone into KubeCon to see this much activity. This was a couple of years later, after I joined the Reply, which is the company I'm still currently working for, which is like basically consultancy, technical consultancy. And there I had, because of my past experience, the pleasure to work with Kubernetes in production quite a lot. And when I first went into KubeCon, I saw that, for example, some of the ideas we thought it could be possible around like having a green scheduler or a green autoscaler was like a project, and I could talk to the people that were working in that project. And just like that, I entered the tag by like talking to the people that were at KubeCon, that were representing the tag, making questions at the same talk I was. And I said, okay, like after university, it's time to get back to sustainability. And like I found Nikki Manoledaki is also the co-chair of the working group Green Reviews. And so I can say it started with university, then the first KubeCon, and then slowly I got into the community. I enjoyed the process, took up some issues. I was really much a newbie, so zero experience in open source, everything very new for me, and slowly took more and more responsibility, and become also eventually co-chair for the tag.
Right, but what exactly does the tag do? Now you've delved into how you got involved, but what exactly does the tag do? There are a bunch of areas that y'all deal with. I know that much, but what are those areas, and what are the primary focus areas for this particular tag?
Yeah, so I think the best way is to refer at the charter of the tag, so the way it was defined. And I think it really has like three areas in the end. So one is about having a technical space. I like the way the tag was defined as brainstorming space, right? It's a place where experts can gather from all different angles, interested into the cloud native landscape, and they come into the tag if they have technical questions around sustainability. So questions like, how can I measure my sustainability into my cluster? What are the tools, the current standards? How can I have strategies? What is the landscape? All the technical part. Then there is also all the community part. So the outreach of these activities, how to give the right voice, give the right space, be sure that people know about sustainability, all the more social part, if we want to call it like that. And then there is also like the third, I think, pillar is a bridge between people inside the CNCF and people outside the CNCF. So let's say I come from the industry world and I want to know more about what CNCF does for sustainability, then my entry point is the tag, right? And so I think with these three pillars, that explains well what the tag has done so far. So the technical part, the more social community part, and a bridge between CNCF and the outside world.
Right. And I would assume that the Green Reviews working group, of which you are the co chair, deals with more of the technical aspects of the tag, yes?
Yeah, that's correct. Exactly. In fact, we have
Yeah.
two working groups. One is the Green Reviews working group, and the other one is the advocacy working group, which focus on the second and third pillar, and the working group Green Reviews is more on the technical side.
Right. And what are some of the goals of your specific working group? Now we know the overarching goals of the tag, or at least the overarching focus areas of the tag. Specific to your working group, what are some of the goals that are there that you all work towards on a routine basis?
Yeah, I think that the working group has an interesting vision. So the vision is to come up with a review process, right? Like we call it working group green reviews, because ultimately what we're interested in is having different CNCF project undergo this review. And for this, like we are trying to come up with a methodology that doesn't exist yet, or that we are trying like in an open source fashion to establish, like with proposals and like different rounds of feedback and propositions. And like the ultimate goal is to define the sustainability footprint of different CNCF projects. And that's what we are trying to do. So in the past year, we had a CNCF project, namely Falco, that volunteered to undergo our first beta round of a green review. And then we tried to ask ourselves, okay, like what does it really mean to do a green review in the end, right? Like what do we need to measure? There are some buzzwords like energy, carbon footprint, and whatsoever, but how do we do it in an automated way? How do we create something that can integrate with the software lifecycle of a CNCF project?
Right, and that's very similar to the overall review process that a project potentially goes through um, when it enters into the CNCF landscape. As in, it's not similar, it's actually very much a part of the process that anyway CNCF projects go through when they move levels or when they actually enter the ecosystem of the CNCF, right? Like they go through a set of reviews, but it's not specific, it did not include the environmental sustainability aspect as of yet, and that's what you all are trying to introduce. Yes.
Yeah, so I think we're not in a state yet to be officially involved into the, for example, the reviews that are part of the sandbox evaluation and other reviews from the TOC. We are still in experimenting phase, but like once we got more solid workflows, that would be really interesting to see if that would be an option, for example, to integrate it. It's part of the vision, but it's not the defined goal for the working group yet.
Right, and you mentioned that y'all have been working on some tooling. Can
Sure.
you give us a peek into what that looks like? If you can via local demo or something.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure.
Yeah.
So can I share the screen?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, can I can do a screen right now?
Yeah. So what I'm showing right now is the homepage of the Green Reviews working group. So this is our home, and like here you can see a little diagram about what we tried to do, like little architecture, high level, and maybe I can open this in a new tab. No, this is bad. And here you can see, like on the top side, you have different projects. This is even worse. And what we do is like we undergo they every time they release a new version for their software. Ideally, we trigger a GitHub action, and what we do is like we start this benchmark pipeline, right? And we have like our configuration and our open tofu that deploys Equinix infrastructure, so a virtual machine in which we install Kubernetes. And then we have also our observability tooling, which is made up of Kepler, Prometheus, and Grafana. And then we do perform our benchmarking. To go a little bit in more detail about what we do, so we can see like here we have our Falco repository. For example, this is the project that first decided to undergo a green review. So whenever they have a new version, our pipeline is triggered. There is a GitHub action in our green review repository. And here we have, thanks to Ross Fairbank, like he deployed our action to use Dagger. And our action really is composed of two steps. The first one is the run step. So like the first one is the trigger step, so the triggering of the pipeline. And then the second step is the run. In the run, we deploy Kepler, we deploy Falco, we deploy the benchmarking. Actually, this one here, it's and then like and some benchmarking, because what happens is like when we have Falco deployed, Falco needs some kind of workloads to behave properly, like to have meaningful measurements. So you can think Falco interacts with the kernel, and if there is not a lot of kernel interaction in the Kubernetes cluster, in the pods, on the node, then it does not really provide meaningful reports. So that's why the benchmark, which is at the moment decided by the project itself, is composed of other three components that we also make run on the cluster. And then we also have our monitoring stack. And once Falco runs and also our benchmarking run, we also do deploy our reporting application, which currently collects the metrics and then writes to a report file. So this is like our vision. For the first iteration, we did this in a more manual way that we also showed last year. And then we rewrote this to be a little bit more automated. And right now, I think we have the step 2 done, and we are currently working on the step 3. So the reporting app is still, like a work in progress, so to say, so that we can put it red. And so it is the collection of the metrics automated, and the report file is not yet there. Our objective would be to have it in GitHub just as a simple file in the future, and then maybe think of some storage as a service. But yeah, like also the CNCF switched from Equinix to Oracle, so we were a bit slowed down in the kind of work that we had to do, because we had to switch infrastructure and think about the new code for deploying the node on Oracle. But this is ultimately what is it about, so to say. Any questions so far?
I have a question. You mentioned about the benchmark, yes. So how, like, I had two conflicting questions here. So who decides the benchmark? Is it a self benchmarking, or is it something that you all have, like, some sort of standards or some specifications that the project has to adhere to? What is the thing around
Yeah.
benchmarks?
Thanks for the question. I think it's a very important one, and we haven't made our mind yet up. So, of course, you can think that if every project runs its own benchmark, then it would be tough to compare, right? How would you compare, I don't know, two different applications that have completely two different benchmarks? And on the other hand, if different projects have different needs because of their nature, so Falco is a security-related application that has its own needs that can only be satisfied by their own benchmark, right? So balance need to be found. And yeah, at the moment we park this discussion. For the moment, we will find a second project that would like to undergo a green review, and we just let our first project self-decide. So they define their own benchmark for their own need.
Right. So like, it's a TBD sort of a situation wherein we do
Right.
not have consensus yet on what constitutes a benchmark. But for the very first iteration of this, it was the project that decided what was the benchmark. And yeah, okay, got that. Is there
Yeah,
anything else that
also we would love to. I think we don't have a lot of expertise on benchmarking in general. So if there is any folk that would like to come and give any suggestion because they had professional experience in benchmarking, we would really appreciate inputs. And yeah, like this is still very much work in progress. I think from the manual version of this pipeline that we had based off a bunch of cube YAML file that we had around and manual triggering, this is looking way better. But yeah, it's a slow learning process along the way.
right? And is there anything else that is a part of this flow that you'd like to demonstrate?
Yeah, so I would like to hopefully do a little demo about local setup so that you can also see something that you could run in your own machine. And for that, we have our own README Again, shout out to Ross, who like during these Christmas holidays set up all of this so that potential contributors could be closer to our project. And yeah, like what we have is like we need some dependencies. These are already installed, so I'm gonna skip. But just for the reference, it's Dagger, kubectl, Helm, and YQ. So nothing weird, I think, for the folks that are used to Kubernetes environment. And then yeah, we can just verify that the dependencies are installed on my machine. And then yeah, we can create a kind cluster. And wait for it to be up. And pray to the demo god that nothing happened well, of course, I tested this like a couple of times before our meeting, but you never know. And then we get the kubeconfig. And we install Dagger. Because Dagger is the tool which will help us right now perform our virtual GitHub action. And this takes a while. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna copy a bunch of environment variables that are needed for Docker to work. I think I can do this in parallel in another terminal. If it's loading up, no, actually not, that's a bad idea. So, right, and then I can try to make setup. This doesn't look good, but it auto-solved before. Of course, something happened. One sec, let's check.
Well, demo gods aren't too kind normally. They do not like it when we do live demos, so it's completely fine.
Yeah, so nothing got deployed. Okay, it's usually, yeah, like it usually takes a little longer to pull the image, and I think the timeout, it's a little bit impatient, but yeah, now we have it in our first terminal. So let me just copy this out here, and now this should work hopefully. Okay, looks better. Just a little bit, probably my internet home is a bit slow in pulling the Docker containers.
Right.
So let's see, we're installing Flux to also install some of the components like Falco and yeah, some of the monitoring stack. This looks good. A little bit of time.
So while we wait for this to get done, I have a couple of questions to ask around the kind of choices that y'all had to make when y'all were deciding what were the tools that y'all were going to use when y'all were getting that pipeline in place, whether it was the benchmarking pipeline or whether it was all the observability tools. How did you all decide what specific technologies or what specific CNCF landscape projects to use?
Yeah, so for the project per se, like I think Falco knew about our working group because there were some folks that were also in the tag, and they proposed, right? And then we had our first engagement, so that's how we got our first project hooked in. And for the technical decisions about what to use, we really went into different rounds of documentation proposals. So under the docs here, for example, you can see we have a proposal section, and in the
Oh,
proposal section, like we discuss, for example, how to do trigger and deploy, right? And here
right.
there are all the technical details. We wrote this with a pull request, so yeah, like kind of open source way. So discussed over a month, like what we should do, all the details, take all the input of the community in, and we did this for each and every step. And in each and every
Okay.
step, we decided yeah, the technical tooling, so the stack for the monitoring. We evaluated. So, for example, if you take the report, which is the
Yeah.
last feature we are working on, I think here we had a bunch of discussion how to collect the metrics. For example, if we want the Go
Correct.
client, or like if we want the Bash script, if we should do PromQL query or like directly query the endpoint of Kepler. And in the end, we took some decisions. And I think, yeah, for each decision, we try to highlight strength, weaknesses, and then take a decision and try to note down what was decision problems, what like what are the drawbacks, what are the alternatives. Here, like we haven't, for example, taken a full decision on how to share the data that we, so some kind of reporting that we have, other than a file on GitHub for the first, so to say, quick and dirty version, and or also long-term storage options, right? Like if we don't want a file, like this is also a discussion we are like having right now. What we should have, like object storage S3 compatible or like external database. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? And yeah, like after a few rounds of discussion, we try to take a decision.
And these discussions are normally through GitHub and through your Slack channel as well as calls, yes? Or
Yeah,
are there any other forums?
we have bi-weekly calls, second and fourth Wednesday from 5 to 6. We have
Okay.
our Slack channel, and then like official proposals. For example, I think if we go to closed PR, yeah, happen via PR. What is a proposal? For example, proposal is governance. Yeah, for example, yeah, like we had a skeleton for proposal 3 or some updates, and then we have
Okay.
usually have a normal PR and discussion over it, and then updates.
Okay. That sorts a lot of things in my head.
Yeah, and then yeah, like at the moment right now, I think we have different things installed into our cluster. We have our Prometheus, we have our Kepler, we have our customized Elm, Dagger. We have everything we need except for the Falco part, right? And the
Right.
benchmark.
Right.
That's where our Dagger comes in the benchmark,
Yeah.
and our GitHub issue with the workflow tool. So like we have a project trigger workflow, and then the benchmark pipeline workshop, which is just calling the benchmark pipeline action on Dagger. And so if we go back to our README, we did the setup. We can do the test. And this, you see, is like applying some manifests. And right now, the part which is missing, like we're simulating with this, yeah, like here we have the deployment complete. I think this should happen. Yeah, like Falco is being installed, and then what will happen next is that, yeah, like we wait for the benchmark. Right now, this is the part that is missing, right? Which is the benchmark should be. I don't remember if this version has the benchmark already. Wait, but all namespace benchmark. Benchmark namespace. Do we have the benchmark namespace yet? Yes, this is it. Uh, yeah, now also the benchmark pods are coming. So this is the event generator, the Redis as the stress ng. This is to stress the memory and CPU enough and have some networking events, which are all needed to have meaningful reports. And that would be the end of what we have developed so far. And this would be then the part which is missing, that we are not missing, we are developing right now. We have open issues I can show you. We are working, like, this is state of the work right now.
Okay.
So what we have it collecting compute. This is our proposal 3. And then I think we have 3 sub issues, and one has been taken care right now, and which it would be the setup of the Go client for the queries to the Prometheus HTTP. Take some more SRE related metrics just to see if it was stressed enough. And then also the next part would be like to compute the SCI with from QL query.
Okay.
And this has some metrics from Falco. And then the SCI is a standard. I think it's better if I show a formula. Do you know about the SCI?
No, I don't. I was going to ask you what was the full form of that. So,
Yes. Software carbon intensity is a new standard that has been, I think, approved last year. Let me take an image so that we can better focus on this. Do we have the image big enough? Yes. So it's a software carbon intensity measure. So it's a score in gram of CO2 that our software basically emitted, right? So the carbon emitted for our software. And you can see, like, it has an energy component. That's what we fetch from Kepler. So Kepler offer container level metrics for the energy. Then
yeah.
we have our intensity part, which is the carbon emitted per kilowatt. This varies with your energy provider and your energy mix. And then we have a rather complicated part of the formula, which is the carbon, embodied carbon in the machine that we're using, that we have to, why I say rather complicated, I don't know if it comes up here. No, it comes up in another one. But this basically, it's complicated because we need to see if the provider of the hardware, first of all, has a reliable number, and then we kind of divide the number by the usage. So the time part of it. So let's say our pipeline runs for 5 minutes. The lifetime of the hardware is, I don't know, 8 years. So we have to take this proportion into account, and also the part of the software that runs into the hardware. So this could be also very, like, more complicated into different dimensions because we have CPU and memory.
Yes.
But for the moment, we are usually like CPU mainly. That's also according to peer-reviewed studies, like mostly 90% of the energy. Actually, 90% is not peer-reviewed. I don't want to quote studies which I don't know very well. But let's say there is an agreement on, like, having CPU as the most energy hungry part. And then there is, like, this R. So this is a functional unit. This is, I think, easier in the case of API calls. So think about user having an API call, and then you compute the energy of that API call on the server side, and then you can multiply by the time the API calls are being used, and you have your software carbon intensity. So at the moment, I think we have this as only one, if I remember correctly. So this is what we ultimately do, and that's how
Right.
you get your carbon measures.
Right. And so right now, you mentioned earlier on some of the focus areas are around developing the benchmarking bits, because that's a TBD, and also I guess the reporting bits, because also that's not developed yet. Any other areas that your tag, I mean, working group is focusing on at this
For
point?
now, yeah, for now we're focusing on finishing the automated part of the reporting, right? Because
Yep.
we had everything, so to say, done manually. So we had our first
Hmm.
results displayed, but not automated, right? Not in a way that could be scalable for our project. So I
Hmm.
think we are towards the end of this year objective, which was complete the automation of the overall pipeline, which was a lot of interesting discussions and yeah, I think also a lot of improvement. Now we have this dagger, which is like let us also have some tests locally. For example, for the test part, we had oftentimes some problematic, like not to be like we didn't have a really life cycle that we could test locally, and now we have it. And so this is so objective number one, I would say, is to complete the automation. Objective number two is to find another project which would be interesting. So also shout out for that. If there is any project would be interested to be the next one, please
Hmm.
let us know. We would be happy to have you. And then third objective, probably to standardize and see once we have two set of different benchmarks, okay, how to make benchmarking a bit more standardized and like a bit more thoughts behind the benchmark other than letting the software choose, right?
Right. So what are some of the skills in terms of you know, maybe expertise with tooling or programming languages that would be required when you're talking about these focus areas? Because I'm sure a lot of people are interested, but they wouldn't really know if they do have the skills to actually contribute. So are there any specific skills contributors must come with when, you know, they're trying to chip in with any of these focus areas?
Yeah, we try to welcome everybody. Me also personally, I didn't have most of the skills that maybe are required and trying to learn along the way. For example, I'm not an experienced. Actually, I've started to read the first Go lines of code when Ross started writing the Dagger client, and so Go would be definitely helping now that we decided to use Go. But personally, it was coming from a Java, more Java development. So I'm also learning side by side. So I don't think that's a deal breaker as long as you interested and we're not have like very huge project, which is scary, right? It's mostly two or three files. Then some DevOps experience with yeah, like Helm or Flux. How to deploy Kubernetes yeah, deployment or in general project like Falco on Kubernetes. And then for the infrastructure part, maybe some OpenTofu also. But we are really trying to make the issues as beginner friendly as possible and trying to provide all the help along the way. So I wouldn't say that we have strong requirements as long as you have the passion to sustain the free time effort, because we are all volunteers, like we're not
Yeah.
backed up. It's a completely volunteer work that we do.
Absolutely. And one last question, because I do know that the tag has a presence at KubeCon EU. Do you all have any sessions at the upcoming KubeCon EU that you'd recommend? You know, if folks are attending KubeCon EU, they stop by.
Yeah, sure. Like we have a booth as a tag, and in the booth we also do advertise all the talks, which are like we have some kind of green talk scraper in the tag, so you can see. And I think also in our official social media pages we do advertise all the green talks. I haven't prepared this, so I can't remember from top of my head. I think Nancy Chawan is a nice session of how green can my open telemetry be.
Okay.
That's the one I remember from top of my head. Leo Falk and me is also going to have a session about having more data on Green Cloud. And we also have been inspired by the work of the tag to do some more hands-on experiments with some hardware. We try to go back to garage time and really start from the hardware, and a lot of learning along the way. Was really a lot of fun, uh, even though you have always the feeling that you could do more.
Yep.
But let's see. Let's see. We try to crunch some numbers. Hopefully, that's going to be interesting for the audience. And I'm sure there are some other. There is something AI related, so um, green cloud and AI, but I don't remember the full title from top of my head. Yeah, I'm sure if you like if you browse to the tag environmental sustainability in LinkedIn, there are all the related posts.
Right. I will link them. I link all of these resources to our live stream after we're done. But I've posted the link to your and Leo's session at KubeCon EU. So that if folks are attended, they can attend, and of course, those recordings will be posted on YouTube as well
Definitely.
within the upcoming weeks, so y'all can catch that. But before we let you go, Antonio, where can interested folks reach out? I know that you mentioned GitHub repo has a lot of good first issues. Do you all have any mailing lists that people can subscribe to? And of course, there's the Slack channel. But do you all have any other avenues?
It's mainly the CNCF Slack channel, and then like we have Green Reviews working group dedicated to sustainability, and also the tag Slack channel. All the links are in our GitHub repo to access it. And at the moment, we don't use a lot of emails, only for very official communication. But I would say mainly you can find us on Slack, and we try to reply quite quick to any new joiner and welcome them warmly.
Right. Thank you so much. With that, I think I will let you go about and get through with your day and prepare for the upcoming KubeCon. Thank you so much for taking our time today. I don't see any questions, and I'm also very conscious that we've run out of time. We're 40 minutes into this discussion, and that I'd love to listen to more, but do know that you have the rest of your day to get on with. So thank you so much once again. And to the rest of our listeners, if you're interested in participating in this tag, or even getting your questions clarified, please do join the Slack channel. I have put up the CNCF Slack channel invite link on the chat here, and the description will also be updated with all the relevant info, so that if you wish to get involved, you can. But with that, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, Antonio, for coming on once again.
Thank you for having me, and yeah, see you at Cuba.
See you at KubeCon.